Hi, today we're going to be learning how to calculate the surface area and volume of triangular prisms when missing a side length. Let's first start with reviewing how to solve for the missing side length of a right triangle. We're going to be using something called the Pythagorean theorem. This is also better known as a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. It's important to note that in a right triangle, it matters where our c value is. Notice here we have our right angle. The c is always going to be the side across from the right angle. This is also called the hypotenuse. So here is our c. A and b can be on either side. So let's just call this a and this b. But again, you could have swapped it. Let's take a look at this right triangle over here. Notice here is our right angle, which means that this side across from it is our hypotenuse or our c value. So our c is the slanted side over here. Remember, a and b can be whichever legs, so let's just call this side our a and this side our b. So plugging it into the Pythagorean theorem, I now have a squared, which is equal to 6 squared, plus b squared, which is equal to 8 squared, is equal to c squared, which is the variable that we're trying to solve for, x. Now let's go ahead and simplify. So 6 squared gets me 36, plus 8 squared gets me 64, is equal to x squared. I want to combine like terms, so let's add 36 plus 64. That gets me 100 is equal to x squared. And if I want to get x by itself, I need to get rid of this square. So let's square root both sides. And so now these two will cancel out. And all I'm left with is x is equal to the square root of 100, which is 10. So that means this side length over here is equal to 10. All right, let's try with another example over here. So first I want to start by identifying my A, B, and C. I notice here's my right angle, so that means this side across from it is my C or my hypotenuse. Again, it doesn't really matter which one is A or B, so let's just call this A and this B. Okay, now let's plug it into our Pythagorean theorem. So I start with A squared, which in this case is 12 squared, plus b squared, which is y squared, is equal to c squared, which is 13 squared. Now let's simplify and solve for y. 12 squared gets me 144, plus we're just going to leave y squared the same, is equal to 13 squared is 169. And now I want to isolate y squared. So I notice that 144 is being added to it. So let's do the opposite of addition, which is subtraction. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 144 from both sides. This now cancels out. And all I'm left with on this side is y squared equals 169 minus 144 gets me 25. Again, let's square root both sides to get rid of the square. And now I'm left with y equals 5. So that means this side length over here is equal to 5. And that's how you find the missing side length of a right triangle. All right, let's go ahead and try to find the surface area and volume of this triangular prism. I'm going to show you two ways to do it. If you'd like to see the method using these formulas, you can go ahead and just skip ahead. So I'm going to first start off with surface area. And for surface area, remember, let's go ahead and identify each of the sides of the triangular prism. So I'm going to list them out. I notice that I have two triangles here on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to start there. I notice that I also have three sides all around the prism. So I'm just going to label those side, side, and side. All right, let's go ahead and start out with the top and the bottom. I'm also going to go ahead and draw out the triangles down here so you can more easily see it. So here I have this length right here, which is 3. And then here I also have a length of 4. So these are actually the base and the height of the triangle. So using the area of a triangle formula, I'm going to do 1/2 times my base, which in this case is 3, times my height of 4. If I multiply all of those, that gets me an area of 6. And if the top is 6, that means the bottom is 6 as well. All right, now let's move on to calculating the area of this front side over here. It's a rectangle, but I noticed that the base of this rectangle is missing. So what that means is I'm actually going to have to use this right triangle here to solve for the missing side length first. So let's go ahead and label my A, B, and C. I notice that here's my right angle, so that means the side across from it is going to be my C, the missing side length. And let's just call this A and this B. So plugging it into the Pythagorean theorem, I have a squared, which is 3 squared, plus b squared, which is 4 squared, is equal to c squared. Now let's simplify. 3 squared gets me 9, plus 4 squared gets me 16, is equal to c squared. 9 plus 16 gets me 25, is equal to c squared. And square rooting both sides of my equation will get me c is equal to 5. All right, so that means this side length right here and right here is equal to 5 centimeters. So I'm just going to go ahead and label that. All right, now that I have this side, I'm going to go ahead and do base times height to find the area of this rectangle. So that's 5 times 9, and I know that's 45. All right, let's go ahead and do this back side over here. So the dimensions of this side are 3 by 9. So I'm going to go ahead and do 3 times 9. That gets me 27. All right, and then my last side over here on the right, dimensions are 4 by 9. So I'm going to go ahead and do 4 times 9, and that is equal to 36. Adding all of my 5 sides up gets me a total of 120, and my units are centimeters squared. And that's my final surface area. All right, let's move on to volume. So for my volume, I want to take the area of my triangular base, which I know is either the top or the bottom, so it's 6. And I want to multiply it by the number of layers I have. So in this case, it's 9. So here's the number of layers, or the height of the prism. 6 times 9 gets me a total of 54 centimeters cubed. And that's my volume. All right, now let's practice applying these formulas. So I'm going to start with surface area. I noticed that it says base times height first. So let's identify that in our prism over here. So we know the base of this triangle was 3 and my height of the triangle was 4. So I'm going to start with 3 times 4. I'm going to add that to all of this stuff over here. So let's label that. So the length is going to be the height of our prism over here. And then each of these 3 sides of the triangle are going to be my S's. So here is side 1. This is our side 2. And then this is our side 3. And let's plug that in. So I have length, which is 9, parentheses, S1 is 5, plus S2 is 3, plus S3 is 4. And now let's simplify this. So 3 times 4 gets me 12, plus, I'm going to leave the 9 alone. 5 plus 3 plus 4 gets me a total of 12. All right. 12 plus 9 times 12 is going to get me 108. And if I add 12 plus 108, that gets me 120 centimeters squared. And that's my surface area. All right, now let's do volume. So I start with 1/2. I'm going to multiply it by base, which is 3. And then multiply that by the height, which is 4. And then multiply it by the length of the prism, which is 9. All of this gets me a total of 54 centimeters cubed. And that's my volume. All right, what if we have a triangular prism that looks like this, where it's kind of tilted over on its side? Let's go ahead and again start off with our surface area. So in this case, notice that our triangular bases are no longer on the top and the bottom. Instead, it's going to be the front and the back, it seems like. So I'm going to start there with our list. I have the front and then the back of my triangular prism. And then again, I still have these 3 sides all the way around. So I'm just going to continue with side, side, and side. All right, let's go ahead and start with the front and the back, which again are my two triangles. I'm going to draw out my triangle down here just so you guys can see it a little bit better. So here I have a length of 25, and then here I have a length of 20. So it seems like I have the base of my triangle, but I'm missing the height, which means we're going to need to solve for that missing side length. So let's do that by first identifying our A, B, and C. So across from here is going to be my C. Doesn't really matter which one is A or B, so let's just call this A and this B. All right, and then plugging it into the Pythagorean theorem, I have A squared, so I'm going to start with 20 squared, plus B squared, we're just going to leave that the same, is equal to C squared, so that's 25 squared. All right, 20 squared gets me 400, plus B squared is equal to 25 squared gets me 625. I want to get B squared by itself, so I'm going to subtract 400 from both sides. This cancels out, and all I'm left with on this side is B squared is equal to 225. I take the square root of both sides to get B by itself, and the square root of 225 gets me 15. So that means this right here, my height of the triangle is 15. So I'm just going to go ahead and label that in our picture. So this is 15 yards. And now we can solve for the areas of these triangles. So I'm going to start with 1/2 times the base of the triangle was 20 times the height that we just found is 15. And all of this together is a total of 150. So if the front is 150, that means the back is 150 as well. All right, now let's calculate the area of this front side right here. So I have the base of this rectangle is 27 and the height is 15. So I'm going to do 27 times 15. That gets me a total of 405. All right, let's do this back side next. So the dimensions of this rectangle are 27 by 25. So I'm going to do 27 times 25. And that gets me 675. All right, let's do the last side, which is this bottom side down here. The dimensions of this side are 27 by 20. So I'm going to do 27 times 20, and that gets me a total of 540. Adding up all 5 of my sides gets me a surface area of 1920. And my units are yards squared. And that's my total surface area. All right, moving on to volume. So for the volume, I'm going to take the area of one of my triangular bases, which in this case is either the front or the back. So it's 150. And I'm going to multiply that by how many layers I have of that triangle. So in this case, I have 27 of those layers. So I'm going to multiply it by 27. So again, this is the number of layers I have. This gets me a total of 4,050. And my units are going to be yards cubed. And that's my total volume. All right, let's go ahead and practice applying these formulas. So I'm going to start off with surface area. So base times height. The base of my triangle, remember, was this 20. And then the height we solved for is 15. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with 20 times 15. And then we're going to add that to all of this. So my length in this case is going to be 27. That's how long the prism is. And then these are each of my sides of the triangle. So here I have side 1. Here is my side 2. And then here is my side 3. Plugging that into here, I get L, which is 27, times S1 is 15, plus S2 is 25, plus S3 is 20. Now let's simplify this. So 20 times 15 gets me a total of 300, plus 27 is going to remain the same. If I add all of these together, that gets me a total of 60. All right, then that gets me 300 plus 27 times 60 is 1620. And if I add these together, that gets me a total of 1,920 yards squared. And that's my final surface area. All right, let's go ahead and plug in our volume. So I'm going to start with 1/2 times our base, which is 20, times our height, which was 15, and then times the length of the prism, which is 27. All of this multiplied gets me a total of 50 yards cubed. And that's my final volume. All right, let's try one more example that looks a little bit different. So again, I'm starting off with surface area. And I want to label each of my 5 sides. So again, just like the last problem, this front and the back are going to be my triangular bases. So I'm going to start there. So I have a front and a back. And then I have, again, 3 of those sides. So I'm going to do side, side, and side. All right, let's go ahead and start off with the front. And you can't see it, but there's also a back. So I noticed that I have the base of this triangle, but I don't have the height, which means I'm going to need to solve for it. Unfortunately, we can't use the entire triangle though, because the Pythagorean theorem only works on right triangles. So I'm going to just use half of this triangle right here, and I'll draw it down here for you. So here is half of my triangle. This length right here I know is 13, but what is this length here on the bottom? It's not going to be 10. It's actually going to be half of whatever our base is here. So this length down here is 5. So let's go ahead and identify our A, B, and C. So across from my right angle is always going to be my C. Doesn't really matter which one's A or B, so let's call this A and this B. So I'm going to plug it into the Pythagorean theorem. So I have A squared plus B squared, which is 5 squared, is equal to C squared, which is 13 squared. I'm going to leave A squared the same. 5 squared gets me 25 is equal to 13 squared gets me 169. And I want to get A squared by itself, so let's subtract 25 from both sides. So this cancels out, and all I'm left with on this side is A squared. 169 minus 25 gets me 144. If I take the square root of both sides to get A by itself, I end up getting 12. So that means this length or this length right here is 12. So I'm just going to go ahead and label that here, 12 millimeters. So now I have enough information to solve for its area. And when I'm solving for the area, I want to use the full base. So not 10 divided by 2, but the full 10. So I'm going to do 1/2 times my full base, 10, times the height that we just found, which is 12. All of this gets me a total of 60. And if the front is 60, that means the back is 60 as well. Now let's solve for this side on the left over here. So I notice the base and the height are going to be 14 times 13, and that gets me a total of 182. So notice that both sides of this prism have the same exact dimensions, 13 by 14. So if this side was 182, that means the other side also has to be the same thing as well. All right, now there's one more side, and it's actually on the bottom, which is a little bit hard to see. So I'm going to go ahead and try to draw in this triangle for you. So our prism kind of looks like this. And the last side that we're going to need to solve for is this side on the bottom right here. So its dimensions are 14 by 10. So we're going to do 14 times 10. That gets a total of 140. Adding all of these 5 sides up gets me a total of 624, and then units are millimeters squared. And this is the final surface area. All right, for volume, again, we're going to take the area of one of the triangular bases, which is 60, and I want to multiply it by however many layers there are of that triangle. So that's 14. So these are my layers. 60 times 14 gets me a total of 840 millimeters cubed. And this is my final volume. All right, now let's try applying the formulas. So we're going to start with surface area is equal to base times height. So this was the base of my triangle, and this right here was the height of my triangle. So we're going to do 10 times 12 plus, let's label the rest of our dimensions. So 14 here is my length of the prism. And then each of these 3 sides here are going to be the sides. So let's say this is side 1, side 2, and then side 3. So I start with L, which is 14, times S1, which is 13, plus S2, again 13, plus S3, which is 10. Now let's simplify this. 10 times 12 gets me 120, plus 14 times all of this added up together gets me 36. We're going to leave the 120 alone. 14 times 36 gets me 504. And if I add both of these together, that gets me a total of 624 millimeters squared. And that's my surface area. Our volume is going to start with 1/2 times the base of the triangle, which was 10, times the height of the triangle, which was 12, and then times the length of the prism, 14. All of this multiplied together again gets me 840 millimeters cubed. And that's how you solve for the surface area and volume of a triangular prism when missing its side lengths. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment with any questions or topics you'd like to see next. Bye.